So, what if I told you that trying to see absolutely every inch of a tropical paradise is, well, it's actually the fastest way to just completely ruin your vacation?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Right, because you step off the plane after this incredibly grueling flight and, the warm breeze hits you and instead of just sinking into total bliss, you immediately launch into this highly stressful multi-day logistical marathon.
It sounds incredibly counterintuitive, right? Especially considering just how much effort goes into getting there in the first place.
Exactly.
But, I mean, the data and the strategies laid out in the local travel guide we're analyzing today, they back that up entirely. The urge to, see everything, it often just destroys your ability to actually enjoy anything.
Yeah, which is exactly why we're here. Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Our mission today is to finally settle this ultimate bucket list travel debate using this comprehensive guide. Should you island hop to see as much as humanly possible, or should you do a deep dive into just one single island? Because let's be real here, you are investing some serious hard-earned time and money into this trip.
Oh, absolutely.
Depending on if you're flying in from, say, the West Coast or the East Coast or, Asia,
Yeah.
you are trapped in a metal tube for anywhere from 5 to 12 hours.
Yeah, and that initial transit alone is just this massive expenditure of, physical and mental energy.
So draining.
Right, so by the time you actually arrive, your battery is already, half empty.
Okay, let's unpack this because our goal today is to help you maximize your actual relaxation and just minimize those awful travel headaches. And I feel like the most common travelers fall into is this assumption that all the islands in the chain are just sort of interchangeable.
Right, yeah.
Like there's this sense of, oh, I'll just bounce around and collect photos of different beaches.
Which the travel guide systematically dismantles right in the opening chapters. I mean, every single island has a completely different topographical and cultural identity.
So different.
Right, like the main capital island, for instance, it offers the most varied infrastructure if you're a first-time visitor. But then you have the Valley Isle.
Oh, yeah, famous for the resort beaches, right?
Exactly, the beaches and that massive dormant volcanic crater. And then another island is defined by these really rugged, dramatic, Jurassic-style cliffs that the adventure seekers just flock to.
Wow.
While yet another is literally divided into two totally distinct climate zones with active flowing volcanoes.
So they're functionally just different worlds sharing the same ocean.
Precisely.
Treating them like they're just different neighborhoods in the same city is, I mean, it's a fundamentally flawed approach right out of the gate.
It really is. And, the best vacation strategy isn't even about deciding where you want to go first. It requires you to deeply understand how much time you actually have.
Yeah.
Time, not money, not ambition time, is your absolute baseline metric for a trip like this.
Okay, so before we even begin to, map out what to do on land, we have to look at how you arrive in the first place.
Yeah.
Which leads directly to the first major strategic choice the guide brings up. And it pits traditional flying against taking a cruise.
Right, because getting to this particular archipelago is a major travel event all on its own. And while the vast majority of visitors do choose commercial air travel, a cruise presents this really powerful and, frankly, frequently overlooked alternative.
Especially for people who want to see multiple islands without the friction, right?
Exactly.
The guide specifically highlights these repositioning routes or ships that depart directly from the local capital city. And the strategy that really caught my eye suggested finding a cruise with absolutely no sea days. One that hits 5 unique ports across 4 major islands. It's basically like a floating hotel loophole.
It is a phenomenal logistical workaround for a very specific type of traveler.
Yeah, I read that and immediately pictured it as this all-you-can-eat sampler platter where you only ever have to unpack your suitcase once.
Right, yeah. You pack once and you're done.
You completely eliminate the hidden costs of changing hotels. You aren't, hunting down food 3 times a day in unfamiliar towns, and you aren't constantly fighting for expensive rental cars.
Yeah.
But, okay, let me play devil's advocate for just a second here.
Sure.
If you take a cruise, don't you sort of sacrifice that authentic, grounded feeling of actually being on the islands? Like, do you just end up feeling insulated in this floating resort the whole time?
Well, what's fascinating here is that a cruise in this scenario is a highly calculated trade-off. It's not necessarily about, achieving the most deeply immersive cultural experience. It's about actively shielding travelers from the most grueling aspect of a multi-island itinerary.
Oh, you mean the transit between the islands themselves?
Yes. The guide identifies what it calls the hidden tax of inter-island travel. And a cruise completely absorbs that tax.
because the ship moves at night.
Exactly. While you're sleeping or, eating dinner in the dining room, the ship handles the transit. When you wake up, you're just docked at a new port, fully rested and ready to explore.
So if the math proves that a cruise is the best way to dodge that inter-island tax, we really need to look at what happens when you choose to fly between the islands instead. Because the actual math of island hopping by air is, well, it's startling.
It is. The illusion of the quick puddle jumper flight is where most vacation itineraries just completely fall apart.
Yeah, the guide states that people look at a map and think, oh, it's just a 30-minute flight to the next island. Like, we can do that right before lunch.
Right.
But the reality is it's a minimum 2.5 hour ordeal for every single hop.
And that's assuming there are no delays, which is a very generous assumption in modern air travel.
Seriously, let's walk through their breakdown because it perfectly illustrates the problem.
Okay.
So first, it takes roughly 30 minutes to check out of your room, get your bags together, and actually leave your current hotel. Then you have about 45 minutes of travel time to the airport, which includes, navigating unfamiliar roads, standing in line to return the rental car.
Right?
Then you have to be at the terminal an hour early for the flight itself. Then add another 15 minutes on the arrival side just to wait at the carousel and get your bags.
Yep.
That is 2.5 hours completely gone right out of the middle of a perfectly sunny Tuesday.
And if we connect this to the bigger psychological picture, that 2.5 hours doesn't just consume time on the clock, it actively consumes your vacation mindset.
Oh, completely.
You're forcibly pulling yourself out of relaxation mode and shifting back into high-stress transit mode. You're dealing with security lines, you're lugging heavy bags around, and then you have to start the whole process of securing ground transport and checking into a new hotel all over again.
You are essentially adding a stressful Wednesday morning work commute right into the middle of your Thursday vacation day.
Exactly.
Which naturally leads to one of the crucial travel hacks the guide insists upon. Leave the massive checked suitcases at home.
If you want to keep that 2.5 hour tax from inflating into 3 or 4 hours.
There is this brilliant tactical adjustment the guide points out regarding airplane seating that I just loved.
Oh, the sieving trick.
Yes. If you are flying south down the island chain, you should actively try to sit on the port side of the plane, meaning behind the pilot on the left. And if you are flying north, you want to sit on the starboard side, or the right side.
It completely transforms a tedious logistical flight into a highly scenic miniature sightseeing tour.
But why does that specifically work? Are the flight paths legally restricted to certain sides of the islands?
Yeah, it comes down to established commercial flight corridors. So, to avoid the high mountainous terrain in the center of the islands and to safely manage the prevailing ocean trade winds, planes have to follow very specific offshore navigational paths.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
And because of those standardized routes, the islands consistently remain on one specific side of the aircraft, depending on your heading. If you don't know the trick, you'll just spend the entire flight staring at empty, open ocean.
See, that is the exact kind of tiny detail that just gives you control over your trip. However, even with the best aerial views and a highly efficient single carry-on, you still have to respect what the guide calls the golden rules of the timeline.
The timeline rules are really the structural foundation of this entire guide. If you have 3 to 6 days total, stay on one island. If you have 10 to 14 days, you can comfortably manage 2 islands. And only when you have 14 days or more does true island hopping, meaning visiting 3 or more locations, actually become practical.
So for the vast majority of listeners who only have a standard 7-day vacation block, how do you avoid getting cabin fever? There's this real concern about running out of things to do or feeling like you missed out on the true variety of the destination.
And the guide addresses that fear head on by mapping out the sheer density of the primary capital island. The geographical and cultural diversity that is available within a simple 90-minute drive is just staggering.
Yeah, they highlight that you can literally start your morning at the historic naval memorials, paying respects at the site of the fallen sailors, and by the afternoon, you can be hiking up massive volcanic tuff cones, wandering through dryland botanic gardens, or getting lost in dense, wet rainforests.
The contrast is remarkable. I mean, you can be standing in a bustling, high-density urban environment and within an hour find yourself on a quiet, striking, isolated coastline.
To prove how much ground you can cover without feeling rushed, the guide lays out a very specific 7-day itinerary. But it's not just like a random list of activities. The genius of this itinerary is its geographical pacing.
Yes, it actively manages your energy levels as the week progresses.
Exactly. So day 1, you arrive, get your bearings, do a simple sunset sail. Day 2 is heavy history, tackling the dense city center sites like the Naval Memorial and the Royal Palace, while your energy and your attention span are still really high.
Makes sense.
Day 3 keeps that active momentum going with morning surf lessons and a strenuous hike up the iconic volcanic crater overlooking the city.
Right, by front-loading the high-infrastructure, heavily populated activities, you're
Right.
taking full advantage of your fresh enthusiasm.
But then the pacing shifts. Day 4, you migrate away from the city to sightsee the dramatic coastal shores on the south and windward sides. And that perfectly sets up Day 5, where the guide introduces my absolute favorite strategy in the entire book.
Oh, yes.
I am calling it the fake hop hack.
The psychological reset.
It's so brilliant. So on day 5, you officially check out of your hotel in the dense, energetic, famous beach district. But instead of going to the airport, you simply transfer by car to a quiet, secluded resort on the northern or western shores for a completely different vibe.
Yeah.
Day 6 is then dedicated to pure, uninterrupted resort relaxation. And day 7 is for final shopping and heading home.
The fake hop perfectly solves the psychological desire for variety without triggering the hidden tax we discussed earlier.
It's like moving from a bustling hotel in Times Square to a quiet, solitary cabin in upstate New York, except, you're doing it on a tropical island.
Yeah.
You basically trick your brain into feeling like you went on a complex, multi-island trip because your environment radically changes.
Exactly.
But you never once had to deal with a security line, a luggage carousel, or an airplane terminal.
And beyond the psychological benefits, there's a very rigid logistical reason why this pacing works.
Oh.
Yeah. As you physically move further away from the main capital city, public transportation and rideshare options severely plummet. So by front-loading your time in the city during those first 4 days, you can rely entirely on walking and robust public transit.
Which saves you from paying massive overnight parking fees at your hotel.
Yes.
I think people are genuinely shocked when they realize parking a rental car in a dense beach district can cost upwards of $50 a night because real estate is at such a premium.
It's a massive hidden cost that catches visitors completely off guard.
Right, so to avoid that entirely, the guide recommends a hybrid transportation model. W-Line bus takes you from the famous beach district directly to the major car rental desks at the airport. You take the bus in the morning, rent the car for the day to do your exploring, return it that evening, and take the bus back. You dodge the overnight parking fees entirely.
It keeps you entirely in the driver's seat of your vacation budget. You deploy self-guided driving only when you actually need the freedom to reach the far coasts.
Yeah.
You use city buses for the short hops downtown. And then for highly regulated environmental spots like the famous snorkeling bay, you utilize official pre-booked shuttles.
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned the snorkeling bay. Why is a pre-booked shuttle so crucial for that specific spot?
Because it operates under very strict environmental protection laws. The local government severely limits the number of daily visitors just to protect the fragile marine ecosystem.
Right.
Yeah, and parking is incredibly scarce. It often fills up completely before breakfast. So by booking an official tour shuttle, you entirely bypass the stress of navigating a rental car into a sold-out parking lot.
That is the ultimate goal, right? Letting the logistics do the heavy lifting for you. And speaking of letting logistics work in your favor, there is one final hack for day 7 that we absolutely must cover.
The red-eye hack.
Yes. A huge percentage of flights returning to the mainland, especially for folks heading back to the West Coast or the Midwest, they are overnight red-eye flights.
And those flights are notoriously uncomfortable.
Oh, they are miserable. You are looking at a 6 to 8 hour flight in a cramped coach seat. But the guide suggests checking with your hotel to book a courtesy room for your final afternoon.
It is a highly strategic move.
Right. Because your flight isn't until late at night, you spend your entire final day out by the ocean. You swim, you hike, you get absolutely exhausted in the sun. Then, instead of going to the airport sweaty and covered in sand, you use the hotel's courtesy room to take a quick shower and change into clean, warm clothes. By the time you get to the terminal and board that red-eye, your body is naturally physically depleted. You will fall asleep the absolute second the plane's wheels leave the tarmac.
You are weaponizing your own fatigue.
I love that phrase.
It's true. Instead of fighting against the discomfort of a long-haul coach flight, You ensure your body biologically needs to sleep anyway. It turns a grueling overnight transit into a surprisingly efficient nap.
It's just so smart. Okay, so to synthesize all of this for you listening right now, whether you choose to leverage the floating hotel loophole of a multi-port cruise, or whether you pack a single carry-on bag for a sweeping 2-week multi-island trekking adventure, or, if you decide to spend 7 days mastering the diverse shores of a single island using the fake hop, the real secret isn't the destination itself.
No, the secret is matching your ambition to your reality. The friction that ruins vacations only occurs when your itinerary outpaces the actual hours you have available.
So don't fight the clock. Structure your plans around it.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us as we went deep into these travel sources today. Have a great week, everyone, and happy exploring.